In the summer of 323 BC, the world stood still. Alexander the Great, conqueror of Persia, pharaoh of Egypt, king of Macedonia, and lord of one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen, was dead. His empire stretched from the sun-scorched deserts of Libya to the lush valleys of the Indus. He had never lost a battle. He was hailed as a military genius, a demigod, even a messiah. But now he lay still in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon, his body preserved in honey, his empire on the brink of collapse. What followed wasn't just a struggle for land or power. It was a struggle for possession of a god. This is the story of the ancient world's greatest heist, not of gold, not of land, but of legacy. Alexander died young, just 32 years old, and his death sent a shockwave across continents. He had no legitimate heir. His half-brother, Aridaeus, was mentally unfit to rule. His only son, Alexander IV, was still in the womb of his Bactrian wife, Roxana. The Diadochi, Alexander's closest generals and companions, were left in chaos. Some grieved, others schemed. Control of the empire was up for grabs. But they all knew one thing: whoever held Alexander's body could claim a divine mandate to rule. You see, to the ancient world, a body wasn't just a corpse. It was a relic. Alexander wasn't just a general. At the oracle of Siwa in the deep sands of Egypt, he had been declared the son of Zeus Amon, making him a demigod in the eyes of many. His funeral rites would not merely honor him, they would shape the future of the empire. According to ancient sources, the plan was to entomb Alexander at the temple of Zeus Amon in Siwa, the very place where he had been proclaimed divine. A specially constructed golden sarcophagus and an extravagant funerary cart were prepared. Pulled by 64 mules and covered in jewels, it was more mobile temple than carriage. But fate and ambition would intervene.
As the funeral procession began its slow march west toward Macedonia or possibly Siwa, a bold plot was underway. In Syria, one of Alexander's most powerful generals, Ptolemy, struck. A former bodyguard and trusted friend of Alexander, Ptolemy had ambitions of his own. He diverted the funeral procession and hijacked the body. This was no petty theft. This was calculated political theater. By taking Alexander's body to Egypt and entombing him there, Ptolemy wasn't just securing a relic. He was laying claim to Alexander's aura, his legitimacy, and the devotion of the people. The body was first brought to Memphis, Egypt's ancient capital, where it was buried with great ceremony. But Ptolemy had even grander plans. Years later, when he made Alexandria the new seat of power, Alexander's remains were moved again, this time into a monumental mausoleum known as the Soma. According to ancient eyewitnesses, the tomb was a breathtaking fusion of Macedonian royal tradition and Egyptian funerary grandeur. Golden ornamentation, crystal and alabaster sarcophagi, columns of marble, murals of the conquests. It was not just a tomb. It was a statement. The God-King lives here. The tomb became the beating heart of Alexandria. Emperors and kings made pilgrimages to pay homage. Julius Caesar is said to have visited during his time in Egypt. So did Augustus, who, struck with awe, laid a wreath at the tomb and, reportedly, touched Alexander's face, breaking off part of his nose by accident. Later Roman emperors, like Caracalla, wept at the tomb and offered sacrifices. Alexander's legacy lived on, in the minds of generals, in the ambitions of tyrants, and beneath the marble of his shrine. But as centuries passed, the light began to dim. Sometime in late antiquity, Alexander's tomb vanishes. We have no clear record after the 3rd or 4th century AD. A site once visited by emperors was now gone. So what happened? One theory points to natural disaster. Alexandria suffered repeated earthquakes over the centuries. Combined with rising sea levels and urban overbuilding, it's possible that the tomb was simply buried beneath rubble and forgotten. But others argue that this was no accident. By the late 4th century, the Christianization of the Roman Empire was in full force. Pagan monuments were viewed with suspicion or outright hostility. In 391 AD, Emperor Theodosius I banned pagan worship. Temples were dismantled, idols destroyed. The Serapeum, Alexandria's most famous pagan temple, was attacked by Christian mobs. Could the Soma have been a victim of this purge? There's also the theory of intentional concealment. As the city fell into chaos, someone, perhaps the priests who still tended the tomb, may have hidden it, sealed it off, hoping to preserve it for a better age. Whatever the reason, the tomb was lost, gone, silent, swallowed by the city it once dominated.
For over 1,700 years, the final resting place of Alexander the Great has remained one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Historians, archaeologists, treasure hunters, and even tyrants have searched for it. During the Napoleonic campaigns, French scholars mapped every corner of Alexandria, hoping to find signs of the Soma. In the 1850s, a theory emerged that the tomb lay beneath the Nebi Daniel Mosque, near the supposed site of the ancient royal quarter. Excavations were attempted, but no proof was ever found. Others believe the tomb was never moved from Memphis, still hidden beneath the sands of Lower Egypt. More controversial ideas abound, that the tomb lies under the catacombs of Qom el-Shukafa or beneath modern civic buildings, whose foundations unknowingly sit atop the relic of an empire. And then there's the Venice theory, that Alexander's body was mistaken for that of Saint Mark, whose remains were supposedly brought from Alexandria to Venice in the 9th century. Could one of Christianity's most sacred relics actually be a pagan king? Despite countless excavations, no definitive evidence has ever been uncovered. The location remains a mystery, as if the sands of time conspired to hide it forever. Alexander's tomb may be lost, but his legacy endures. His name still echoes in cities from Alexandria in Egypt to Iskenderun in Turkey, from Kandahar in Afghanistan to Alexandroupoli in Greece. His face appears on ancient coins that still surface in markets and museums. His tactics are studied in military academies from West Point to Moscow. He dreamt of a united world where East met West in harmony. He failed perhaps, but the vision lingers. And maybe, just maybe, beneath the busy streets of modern Alexandria, or hidden beneath layers of time and earth, his tomb still waits. Untouched, unseen, sacred. A god-king sleeps beneath the dust of history, waiting for the world to remember. This was the ancient world's greatest heist, not of gold, not of land, but of legacy.